So I was worried that, am I going to see any patients? Who's going to want to come and see me?
We started off in this little spot where there was nothing. It wasn't a dentistry office before. We didn't have a lot of money, and we didn't understand, what we wanted to do in the first place. We just wanted to do dentistry.
We've met multiple milestones and goals through our association with AVLI.
You need somebody that understands your brand. And I was very fortunate to have started my journey and my relationship with AVLI.
The reason I decided to go to AVLI because I wanted to increase my patient base and to also increase the practice revenue.
AVLI essentially provided the compass for our practice and put us on a path of success that we are realizing at present.
So I was worried that, am I going to see any patients? Who's going to want to come and see me?
We started off in this little spot where there was nothing. It wasn't a dentistry office before. We didn't have a lot of money, and we didn't understand, what we wanted to do in the first place. We just wanted to do dentistry.
We've met multiple milestones and goals through our association with AVLI.
You need somebody that understands your brand. And I was very fortunate to have started my journey and my relationship with AVLI.
The reason I decided to go to AVLI because I wanted to increase my patient base and to also increase the practice revenue.
AVLI essentially provided the compass for our practice and put us on a path of success that we are realizing at present.
So I was worried that, am I going to see any patients? Who's going to want to come and see me?
We started off in this little spot where there was nothing. It wasn't a dentistry office before. We didn't have a lot of money, and we didn't understand, what we wanted to do in the first place. We just wanted to do dentistry.
We've met multiple milestones and goals through our association with AVLI.
You need somebody that understands your brand. And I was very fortunate to have started my journey and my relationship with AVLI.
The reason I decided to go to AVLI because I wanted to increase my patient base and to also increase the practice revenue.
AVLI essentially provided the compass for our practice and put us on a path of success that we are realizing at present.
Good evening, everybody. We are very happy to be doing a little bit of marketing, something different tonight on the SAAAD platform. I think there's still a few people that's still logging on, but we'll slowly start. And I am just going to, in terms of housekeeping, I'm just going to ask you guys not to use the chat box. But if you have any questions for tonight, you can actually use the Q&A button, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. So we'll give time for questions and answers at the end of the lecture. But first, I'm just going to share my screen and we'll start with the introductions. Great. So dental marketing with Khaalid and Corne. I'm going to start by introducing you guys to my good friend that I started to get to know over the past 10 years. Our journey began together as I opened my practice and he started his marketing company. And it's so nice to actually look back and to see how both of us has grown and how our businesses really have grown together. So not only do we have a really good working relationship, but we also became very good friends. And just a little bit of info on Khaalid. He's actually the CEO and the director of AVLI, which they started in 2012. He's also the chairman of Newlands Cape Ventures, an investment company. And in terms of education, he's done machine learning. What's machine learning?
It's like robots automating things.
Wow. Okay.
It's not too exciting. Not as exciting as dentistry.
Machine learning at Stanford, which is pretty impressive.
It was online.
Oh, was it online?
Yeah,
oh, you should never say that.
Sorry. It was. I physically went there.
that sounds so much better. And then also you did business science and information systems at UCT. So just a really quick introduction on me. I might have gotten to know some of you guys in the past through Bridge program or through SAAAD. My claim to fame is really my practice that I'm very proud of. I founded the practice in 2012, and now it is called Smith and van Lierop Advanced Restorative Dentistry, and I co-own it with Jean van Lierop. We also founded the Bridge program in 2018, where we teach young dentists about both the clinical and the business side of dentistry. Watch out for the new Bridge program dates to be launched pretty soon. And currently I'm very fortunate to be the president of SAAAD, the South African Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry. And that is as much as I have to say about me. But let's get to why we are really here tonight. So I'm gonna pose a question to you guys. When we think of marketing, for me, marketing answers this question. So you never actually want to give the answer away right at the beginning of the lecture, but it's inevitable. I have to give it away now because the connection between the business side and the clinical side of dentistry for me is marketing. So when we think of why most small businesses fail, it's because we are good technicians. So think of a dentist or a plumber or a hairdresser being the greatest at their craft, but not having a good business side will unfortunately make the business fail. So you can be the best hairdresser, you can be the best dentist, you can attend all of the CPD events and the webinars and improve your clinical skills forever. But if you don't know how to make money, you are not able to provide this amazing service to your patients. And marketing is the connection between those two things for me. So if we are able to connect our patients with our clinical skill, both us and our patients can actually find value in what we do. And that brings us to this woman. His name is Michael E. Gerber. So any one of you who's attended a lecture that I've given on business has seen this slide before. But it's such an important slide that I have to mention it. It is one of the most important business books that I built my business on way back when I started. And basically, he talks about this disconnect between the technician and the business owner. So if we open a dental practice, you guys saw the video right in the beginning where JJ was talking about, we just want to do dentistry because that's what we want to do. We just want to be good dentists. And we spend so much money and time and effort on improving our clinical skills. But how much money and time and effort do we actually put into improving the business side of the practice as well? And that's where Michael E. Gerber says that we get it wrong. We forget that the moment we open a practice, people are not just going to automatically walk into the door anymore. It's not the 1980s anymore where The moment you do a great filling, everyone tells all their friends and you just automatically have patients. Unfortunately, that era is gone. So what we can learn from this book is to really follow that connection, to follow through on the connection of getting our patients into the practice, keeping them there, keeping them happy, and then completing the cycle by making them even come back. So tonight, just to give you a little bit of structure, we will start by looking more in depth into this connection, where we'll focus both on your website and we'll look at Google search. We'll also look at identity, which basically is around brand and social media. And then lastly, we're going to talk about value, which is where we want to see the return on our investment. Penny Burke, the past director of the biggest Australian advertising agency, has 3 laws of marketing. If you want to know where to start, this is a pretty good place. The first law is know what you are famous for. So quickly just take a second. Think of what you enjoy about dentistry. So what do you actually clinically do? What do you do with your hands? And then also think about the emotion that you create when you see patients. A good example would be if you are famous as the dentists that are really, really good with kids. So you would potentially be able to make them feel really comfortable. That's something that you really can be famous for. Another example could be that you are extremely good at doing smile makeovers. So you create this Hollywood type of feeling, and people really trust you. They spend a lot of money with your practice. That is something that you are famous for. So the first thing you need to figure out is, what are you famous for? And this is not just a functional thing, but also a emotive thing. So not only what you are good at clinically, but also how you make people feel. The second law is that thing that you're famous for, deliver that consistently. Do it well, stay in the lane that you know you're good at, and do it all the time. When we are able to do this consistently and really build on the thing that we're famous for, the thing that we enjoy most in our practices, then it automatically flows into the third law, which is leveraging that position. If you are a dentist that thrives in an environment where you see families, you see kids, you do general dentistry, and you really want to help people, and one of the touch points would then be to have a really good price level, to make it affordable for people to come to your practice. So that's leveraging that position. So that's building onto what you're famous for as the next step. And if we think of what our patients want, so that's what we want, now thinking of what our patients want, what is our perfect patient? What is that potential patient that you really want in your practice? So, for instance, if we think of Piet that lives in Claremont, and he needs implants, and he actually lives literally 2 blocks away from your practice. But and he can afford you, he's got the funds, he's a great guy, he's a patient that's educated about his oral health. He's the perfect patient for your practice. You have a thriving implant practice. How is he going to find you? Where is he actually going to search for you? Is he going to ask on the on the community group in Claremont, in the southern suburbs? Is he going to ask on the Facebook groups? Is he only going to ask his friends? Or is he also, even though he's in the older generation, is he also maybe going to Google and try and find a dentist that can do this implant for him? When he actually finds your practice, he's also going to see a couple of your competitors around you. So he might see the guy that's a block closer or just 2 blocks further away. And why should he then choose you? So marketing is finding that perfect spot where we can connect this patient that is perfect for your practice, and he wants the treatment that you're famous for. How can we connect those two? If we look at the research, this is really interesting. Newswire did a survey in the States, and this was done in 2019, which I think is actually still relevant. But the question that they asked 1,500 people in America was, you're searching for a new dentist near you on Google, and you get several options to choose from. Which will you most likely pick? So if you guys see on the screen here, this was very surprising to me. I didn't think that Google reviews would have such a high percentage. It's almost half. So 43% of the 1,500 people chose the dentist with the best online reviews. After that, just under 20% was the one closest to me. So proximity and actually access does play a role. Then the one that was top ranked in the search. So that's not the first thing people look for. It's not only if you are the first dentist that pops up on the search. Then it's the cheapest one, which is an obvious thing for a lot of people. And lastly, it's actually the one with the best looking website. So I know this is 2019 in the States, but Khaalid, if you can maybe just add in here, how do you think that this relates to the South African industry?
So, I mean, generally what we've seen with dental marketing trends is South Africa lags by about 3 to 5 years. So you probably find that in more developed, more metropolitan areas within South Africa, these stats are very much probably realistic, with perhaps maybe the cheapest and pricing being a little bit higher in South Africa, because we are still in a very much, developing economy, and price economics does play a more major factor when people do select dental practices. But I'd say that yes, online reviews contribute and play a massive role in how practices perceive brand and trust, and patients regard brand and trust as the most important thing when selecting a dental practice.
Wow. So you would relate this to South Africa at the moment already? Do you think this would be valid?
Yeah, I'd definitely say that to a strong extent, especially in your metropolitan areas and larger cities.
Okay, cool. It's actually interesting to think of the fact that the States is, how many years did you say?
It's about 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
Which makes it so easy to see new trends. Because if we see what they do, we can just kind of copy and see if it works.
Literally.
We're in a very fortunate position actually in South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we are searching, so Mpik is finding his implant dentist, he's going to first make an inquiry. And the inquiry goes to your receptionist, which needs to convert the inquiry. Remember, this is not up to you anymore, and it's also not up to your marketing company or whichever ad agency you use. After you convert the inquiry, you need to do a consult, and this is where we actually start playing a role in this whole process. So we consult with the patient, we provide them with a treatment plan or a quote, and then we do the treatment. But can you see how many different layers need to happen before we actually get the patient in the chair? And there's so many variables and so many things that can go right and wrong. And it's important to know all of the steps so that we can refine them and get these patients, the right patients, to our practices. After we've done the treatment, we're very lucky in dentistry that we can actually recall this patient. So dentistry is one of the professions where we can see someone every 6 months, every year, which is great. So it becomes an internal source of marketing as well. And there lies the profits. But all the hard work needs to be done first before we actually get to that point. And in many cases, I think what I see in my practice is we lose out on so much potential treatment because we fail in the first step, where we get the inquiry and we don't actually convert that because maybe we took too long to answer the email. Maybe the phone was busy. Whatever the reason is, a lot of people actually fall out just on that point. But getting the right people is a process. And when our patient actually chooses us, first thing they see is our website. So for me, a website is kind of a first impression. The first impression the patient makes is not just when they walk into your reception. The first impression the patient makes is actually when they see your website. So what does your website say about you? How does it reflect on you? Khaalid, if you can maybe give us some insights into website trends and what do you think is important in 2022 for websites?
So I'd say that the most important aspect when you are building out your website is you need to build your website with purpose and not treat your website for your practice like a checkbox item when setting up your practice. So build it with purpose and optimize it for driving patient conversions, not necessarily the prettiest website. So focus on building a site that patients will love. Ensure that you're creating engaging content with things like your before and after cases, providing information about yourself and your team. And don't just go for what you think looks amazing based on your narrow knowledge of what a website is supposed to look like. What you may perceive as a good website may not be what the average patient that you're trying to attract perceives as a really good website. So, to give you an example, very, very small things can impact the amount of inquiries that your website generates. A really small example would be something like color psychology. It's not really something that anyone really thinks about when they build a website, but if you are a dental professional and the main color on your website is red, then the amount of inquiries and your conversion rate would be 6 to 8% lower than someone whose primary colors on their website is actually blue, because people associate red with, maybe perhaps blood or whatever it may be, but your conversions and amount of people inquiring through your website will literally be lower just because you have a red branded website. So that's not something that you actually think about when you build your website. So it's important to see how a website that's not built professionally with the patient in mind can really, really impact the amount of inquiries that you're generating. The other important thing is to project your practice as being a warm practice. We're seeing that, going into 2022, being perceived as a warm practice really, really helps, drives much higher conversions if you're portraying yourself as warm as opposed to someone very clinical. Far too often we see dental practices projecting all the fancy technology that they have and coming across as very, very, very clinical, which is not a bad thing, but you want to project yourself as warm so that you're getting the most conversions possible from patients browsing your website. I mean, small little things that you can also do are obviously add the associations that you're a part of. So if you are part of associations, we find that engagement and conversions actually go up by about 5% if you are showing off the associations that you are part of. But the thing that we saw at the largest impact on your website was you as a dental professional, actually photos of yourself with patients, you looking happy and the patient looking happy, and those photos being on your website, that actually drives up conversions and engagement by a massive 20% on average. So I'd say if there's anything that you learn or take away from that, it's, you know, put up good photos of yourself, the associations you're a part of, and build a website purpose-built for patients, not how or what you think would constitute a good website.
And do you think it's possible to have like a super simple website and still be efficient? Or do we have to have like these extremely expensive, like massive websites?
I would say that so many practices see other dental professionals and their websites and they get put off and they over refine and they want to over perfect the website that they have before launching. When in actual fact, it's much better to just get something up that's half decent and make it a project that you work on over time. You know, an amazing website isn't going to be able to be built in a month, because I can assure you that a lot of the dental professionals that we work with, their websites are consistent work in progress. They work on them, you know, over years to get them to where they are. So don't fret on perfecting before launching. Rather, you know, get something up with the basics and then commit yourself to improving it over a period of time.
Okay, so just start soon.
Yes.
As soon as you can. Great. And we're going to do a bit of a practical exercise now, which I think will be quite nice, where we'll look at what a search actually looks like and what are the things that we need to focus on in 2022. So I am just going to share a new screen with you guys where I'm opening my browser, and I hope this works. So I'm going to type in, we said we are a patient that wants dental implants. So I'm going to say dental implants near me. Okay. Now, near me searches are very popular.
Yeah.
Are they not? Okay.
They're the most popular dental related.
Okay. So what? Oh, wow. This is not even, I promise this was not planned. Okay, sorry. Okay, this was not planned. We don't even do implants. But what's the first thing that comes up on the ads? I am sitting in Kenilworth, which is very close to my practice. So that's maybe also why my ad popped up. But the first three things we are looking at now is ads, guys. These are not organic listings. So you can see my ad is there. I'm not going to click on it because if I click on it, I actually pay for that ad. How much is a dental implant ad?
It's well over 100 Rand.
Well over 100 Rand. So if I just click on this one thing here, you actually pay for it. So please don't click on my ads. The next one we see is Dr. Patel, who we know very well. And then there's Malcolm. Very interesting. All three of these listings, or four, and then Ian Grindling is right after that. So 4 people are listed here, and all of them have paid to be there. So I know a lot of you guys know how Google Ads work, but I'm going to just give Khaalid the opportunity to give us some insight on how we can refine this, how we best can actually spend our money on AdWords, and the ways that you guys can be cost efficient for us.
Yeah, so I mean, just like Corné explained, so Google Ads is a really, really easy way for you to market your practice. So, you know, the best way to start when marketing your dental practice would be to leverage a platform like Google. And Google Ads would be the easiest intro point into that. So basically what you would do is focus on the core services that relates back to what Corné was saying about, you know, what are you good at? What should you be known for? The similar sort of thinking applies to when you would start with something like Google Ads. So think about what are the types of patients or services that you would like to attract patients for. So let's say, for argument's sake, you are looking for implant patients, then you would set yourself up a few Google Ads on the Google platform, and you select the location that you would like to attract patients in, and yeah, you click next and you set it up, and boom, you've got yourself a campaign. And now suddenly people who are looking for implants will be able to find you. In reality though, that's not generally how easy it is, for the most part, because Google is optimizing, you know, spend so that you spend as much money with them. And that's obviously not in your best interest, because unless you had an endless budget, which most practices don't, you want to optimize the spend on Google for the maximum amount of value that you can get. So Google is going to optimize for the amount of people that are going to click on your ads, and not necessarily the amount of patients that will actually end up in chairs at your practice. So it's very important to understand how to leverage Google Ads correctly. For example, if you broadly look at how consumers in South Africa actually search for dental search terms, the most popular phrases in South Africa are phrases that have the word cheap. So if you are a practice that's looking for higher value patients and you were setting up a Google Ads campaign, standard one, you will probably end up in all likelihood paying for people looking for very cheap products, and they won't necessarily convert, especially if you're a high-end practice. So the question that we get asked quite a lot is, so how do you practically get around that? And the way you get around that is you can either properly optimize your campaigns, which is very time intensive, or you can leverage an artificial intelligence platform. An artificial intelligence platform is very much capable of understanding what user intent is and whether you should be targeting that user based on the types of patients that you're trying to attract. So a really good way of understanding it is, let's say for argument's sake that you are someone who is only offering higher value based cases, so implant surgery. You don't want to attract someone that is just looking for a general dentist. And if you were setting up a stock standard Google campaign, it could very easily make the mistake of targeting people who are looking for a general dentist as opposed to people who are looking for dental implants, or people who have shown real intent for dental implants. So an artificial intelligence platform integrated with the Google Ads strategy is your best bet, because it would be able to automatically filter out the individuals that are not truly interested, and also apply other levels of filtering. So artificial intelligence platforms can do things like income-based targeting. So obviously, if you're offering higher value treatments, you're not necessarily going to want to spend money on targeting lower income consumers. And yeah, AI gives you the ability to target, you know, only higher value consumers.
Okay. Just like on the note of Google Ads, it can become quite expensive though, hey?
Yeah.
Like, I know that the way that we structure our marketing campaigns with you guys, we often actually like separate our spend from like our campaigns and our ad spend is different. So we actually put a budget on it.
Yes.
You have to, otherwise the Google platform can just, well, the AI can outbid anyone on this, well, for whatever words, quite expensive. So as far as I understand, like you have to have a very clear intention in the way that you spend this money. And it's very easy if you try and do this yourself to lose quite a lot of money and really have a low hit rate.
Yeah, so I mean, we see a lot of practices who say to us, look, I've done Google Ads, it didn't really work out for me, and suddenly they're very disinterested in doing proper marketing. When in fact, if you take a look at the data and how they were running the campaigns, they just weren't set up correctly. You know, Google themselves will actually set up a campaign for you if you ask them to, because they want you to spend the money. But you know, the person that's going to be setting up your campaign is someone outsourced in some other country, usually in a lower income country because they're low salaried employees, and they're going to set your thing up in 5 minutes because they have 500 other things to do on that same day. So the campaigns are never really optimized correctly because someone sitting in India isn't going to understand the intricacies of how you should be setting up your marketing campaigns in Cape Town or Johannesburg. They just don't have that level of insight. You know, they may not understand that you shouldn't be spending, you know, 3,000 Rand to acquire a new pediatric patient, but only be spending 500 Rand to attract a smile makeover case. And it's very important to understand those differences, because that can be the difference between your practicing high revenues from doing something like Google marketing and actually seeing a negative return on your investment.
Okay. So if we scroll down further, then the next part of our search result is called local search. So it's very nice to see my friends featuring here, my neighbors. This is Emile and Corne. They're on here. Nice. So they are ranking because they have a Google business listing, and Google local search results are linked to Google Maps. So you have to actually claim your Google business page to be able to be ranked or to be able to be listed on maps. Once you claim your own business page, then you'll pop up here, like you can see Ian Groenling is here, Emile is here, Enon's Dental Studio, Dr. Patel is here, and all of them have come up because they're in close proximity to where I'm sitting at the moment. Local search is super, super powerful because it actually, it's so good to track how people get to you, because they will then click on the map and they'll immediately be directed to your practice. Also, they can phone you from this listing. What else do you think is important to note just in terms of local search?
So, I mean, review generation.
Oh, of course,
yeah,
that's
massive,
where you see the review. Yes.
So that goes back to, you know, important factors that people look at when choosing a dental practice. So this is what people see when they immediately are in an area. So, you know, our phones are constantly giving off our locations, and yeah, if you're looking for something in an area, these are the results that you're going to see first if you're using a mobile device. So it's incredibly important that you do claim your Google My Business profile and that you start a proper review generation strategy within your practice.
Okay, so we'll go into a little bit more detail on the Google My Business page, but just to show you guys the rest of the page, this is organic search results. So people that are listed here, the first one is Cape Town Dentist, and they are listed because they organically ranked through search engine optimization. The second one is almost kind of weird because it's in Bellville. Then we see our friend JJ, he's third on the list. We see OptiSmile. So all of these people are organically ranking very high on the search term dental implants. So SEO is something that Google, well, it's called search engine optimization. This is the way that Google connects to your website by looking at search terms and phrases that people are looking for. How do we use SEO at the moment, and what are the trends in SEO at the moment?
So SEO is like this buzzword that a lot of practitioners actually know about SEO. Like, quite surprisingly, they know about its existence. The big problem though is the perception of SEO is that you can, buy a domain name like Dentist Cape Town or whatever, and that's basically your SEO strategy. So you buy the domain and suddenly you'll rank for first place for basically everything under the sun. The truth is that that strategy worked like 10 years ago. Today, SEO has changed quite drastically. There's so many permutations and ways that people search for things, and Google looks primarily at things like how authoritative you are and how engaging your website is from an SEO when ranking you for SEO. So an easy way to understand that is, let's say for argument's sake, you have a website and a competitor has a website, but your website explains, let's say for argument's sake, cosmetic dentistry very comprehensively. So you're showcasing your team, you're showcasing the cases that you have, you're thoroughly explaining what your first visit and the process of coming for a smile makeover or cosmetic treatment is actually like. And you have video content on your website, but the competitor's website just has a title and it says, "Hi, yes, we do cosmetic dentistry," like full stop. You can see how not only would the prospective patient perceive your website as far higher value, the engagement on your website is going to be considerably higher than your competitor. Google picks up on those user signals, those engagement signals, and will inevitably rank your website for cosmetic dentistry related search terms a lot higher than that particular competitor. So it's very important to understand that engagement on your website is one of the largest factors that Google looks at when optimizing for SEO. The other thing that's incredibly important is your authority. So authority basically refers to, how well are you known in the industry or for that particular thing. And authority is also linked to your brand as well as credibility within your field. So on the one end, it's practical things like, are you a member of various associations like SAAAD? So do you have a profile on the SAAAD website linking back to your practice website? Those types of things show Google that, hey, you're a part of all the correct authoritative associations. Therefore, you're probably far more credible than another dental practice that doesn't have any of those associations. And those things also play a massive impact in how you rank on Google.
Okay, so I think we spoke about this before, where this is a new strategy that Google has by using authority. So it's one way that they can try and filter people from just spending a lot of money on websites and not really being good dentists, which is actually a great thing for our profession. Because now, if you are a member of SAAAD, if you are a member of SAAAD, if you belong to organizations, your name is associated with the right things, then you will actually rank better, which is amazing.
Yes.
I think we do sometimes, and unfortunately, see that you can just throw money at a problem, and then you can rank very high on websites, even if you don't have all of the other things in place as well. So I think it's a great way of Google, for Google to filter and to give people high recognition that has credibility. And I also think it's important what you said about the engagement that people have. I didn't always realize that Google sees this as a higher ranking website just if someone spends longer time on your website, and they actually measure this. They see how many pages people go to, they see how long they spend on each page, they see the moment that someone goes to a page, and if your website doesn't load, that counts against you. So all of those little things actually play a role in your SEO.
Yeah, which is why SEO is generally, perceived as complex, because are you as a dental professional really, unless you are looking at your statistics every hour of the day and seeing how you're benchmarking against your competitors and how patients are engaging on your website compared to your peers, unless you're practically doing that and then subsequently A/B testing and optimizing your website on a weekly basis, unless you're practically doing that, SEO does become very time consuming.
Yeah, and I mean, it can be people do this this is a full-time job that people have. It's not just a once-off thing either. Yeah. You actually have to continuously do this.
Yeah, I mean, SEO professionals are some of the most sought after professionals globally, good ones. You may get a lot of emails from fly-by-night operations saying, this is wrong with your website, that's wrong with your website, I can fix your SEO in 10 minutes, please pay me, thanks. When in truth, SEO is a consistent process, but it is worth it because done properly, it can yield immense results for your practice.
Cool. I think we're done with our search. It was really interesting to actually see what we got with the results. I'm going to go back to my presentation and continue. There we go. We spoke about our website, and then we spoke about local search, AdWords, SEO, and Google My Business. If you don't have a Google My Business page yet, it's so easy to register. So you can actually just claim your business page. You can even do it tonight. But if you have to get it to be able to have a local listing. The next part of our presentation, we're going to talk about brand, which is kind of awkward because we're dentists and we just want to do dentistry. We don't want to talk about ourselves. We don't want to sell ourselves. But essentially, we need to. We need to actually believe in what we're doing, and we need to tell people about what we're doing. If I do a really good filling, it's not enough anymore that it doesn't hurt. If I show my patient the filling I did and how I restored their tooth and how much better it looks and functions, that brings so much more value. So talking about ourselves is kind of awkward, and talking about brand as a dentist feels unnatural to me. But this is the world that we live in. And every single thing we do is telling a story about us. If we do nothing, that also tells a story. So what are you doing? How do you represent yourself, not only on your website, so not only the About Us page where you put a photo on. I mean, my photos are so outdated, it's not even funny. I think we put those photos on just before COVID, and so you need to update this. I don't necessarily look the same. I might not have the same people working in my practice anymore. It's very important to actually put that personal touch, not only on your website, but also in social media. So building a brand, as anything else, can have a strategy. What are the strategies that you guys use for brand building in dentistry?
So again, understanding brand building is, it's something that you need to understand. That's not something you can do overnight. Brand building is something that you need to start with, and you need to keep at it. So you need to keep that in mind, because the dental practices that are seeing immense success are the ones that are consistently branding themselves, thinking about themselves as a brand. And in order to build up a brand, strategy-wise, the easiest thing you can do is just load up some paid ads and run adverts promoting yourself and your practice. So, you know, whenever you're on the internet and you see those adverts, that's one of the easiest ways that you can brand yourself. So, you know, if someone's going to see your brand, your logo, they're exposed to your practice more consistently than another practice, that's brand building, because people are now consistently aware, or they are seeing your practice over and over again. So try to create the same thing by ensuring that, you know, wherever someone is looking or someone's eyeballs are, your logo, your practice is visible. And you can get away by doing things like display marketing on display ad channels, like those adverts that you see across the internet. So that's the easiest way to build brand, because that's very minimal effort. The other ways that you can build brand, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, is through branding yourself. So by branding yourself, what you're going to do is you're going to leverage channels like social media. You're going to post things like the patient experience. You're going to post things like your testimonials, you know, showcase how patients are finding the experience at your practice. You're going to show off things like your cases. So really try to promote yourself. I know it's something hard to do because, you know, it may seem egocentric, but, you know, promote yourself, because people won't know about the work or how good of a dentist you are or how great it is to come to your dental practice if you don't make them aware of it by sharing it on channels where people are looking, like social media. So I'd say that the shortest or quickest thing you can do is, just to recap, is run paid ad campaigns across display channels, or think about branding yourself by posting content about yourself, about your practice, about the patient experience. And it's just something that's so important, and a lot of practices really don't do it because they feel like it's not something that tangibly yields results in the short term. So it's something that's not very well invested in. But we see that the dental practices that truly thrive are the ones that do have a proper branding strategy. And, you know, it was so evident for us during the COVID lockdown period, when, you know, a lot of dental practices were not really doing any marketing. They weren't really branding themselves. And then, you know, we had clients who were still actively branding themselves. They were still investing in marketing. And as soon as the lockdown rescinded, we saw that those practices, despite people not, you know, being able to go to practices during that period, those practices that were branding and marketing themselves during the lockdown, they were the ones that rebounded the quickest and ended up seeing record revenues post-COVID. So yeah, it's imperative that you do put together a proper branding strategy for your dental practice.
Yeah, and I mean, social media is awkward for me. Some people find it very natural, like it's just an extension of who they are to post on social media. And our practice is definitely Jean's job to do the social media. It's a very natural thing for him to do. But what I found with social media specifically, if we get to the next topic, is that sometimes it feels like it's a very big net. Like, and do you really, in your experience with your clients, do you see results? Do you actually see a return on investment in social media advertising and like being active on it? Is it worth it?
Yeah, so the most important thing is, you know, don't try to focus on everything. So especially if you're just starting out, there's so many social media platforms. The best advice would be focus on the platforms that are predominantly used. So platforms like Facebook and like Instagram, those platforms are great for dental professionals because they're very photocentric. And if you're doing really great cases, it's a lot easier to just share a few photos than trying to think up something to say. So those platforms, I'd say, are the ones where we see the highest return on investment for clients that do leverage social media. And yes, it's immensely beneficial to leverage social media. In 2022, if you're ignoring social media in your practice and your practice is not thriving, like, I really don't feel sorry for you. Like, you're not even trying. Like, social media is such an easy way to generate new patients. And the two most powerful ways to leverage social media are the first way that we're seeing really great results is if you leverage social media to run paid advertisements. So you may not be aware of this, but you can run adverts on social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram and target people that are just within your suburb. So you don't have to target the whole country, you don't have to target the whole city, just the suburb that you're in. And if you do that, imagine everyone's on their phones or on Facebook, like yourself personally, think about how frequently are you on social media. Now, imagine everyone in your area where your practice is, imagine they saw on Facebook or Instagram ads consistently just in your suburb about your practice. That's super powerful because people immediately, imagine every single day, at least half of everyone in that area on their phones are seeing adverts for your practice. You're going to get a large number of inquiries and bookings for appointments. So that's an easy, quick win. If you don't want to spend on paid ads, I mean, I would recommend that you do. But the other thing that social media is incredibly powerful for is, again, branding yourself, but projecting yourself in a very personable way. And it's something incredibly important that you have to understand as dental professionals is you're not just selling your clinical skills. You're not just selling the fact that you've got a dental degree. You're selling the patient experience. And how does a patient gauge whether the experience at your practice is going to be great or not? So yes, you have reviews, but that's not the only factor. Let's pretend every dentist had 100 5-star reviews. So what are the differentiating factors? So social media allows you to differentiate yourself by showcasing what it's like in your practice, by showcasing the work that you're capable of doing, through showcasing your cases. If you show that patients are having a really great time at your practice, like, you know, they're smiling, you're standing with them, smiling with them. And let's say I'm looking for a dentist and you both have really great websites, both have really great reviews and testimonials on the internet, but your competitor has absolutely no social media presence, but you have a drove of like amazing photos with your patients having a good time, and you're showcasing your work. I'm far more likely to want to come to your practice because you're perceived as far more personable, which is incredibly important as a dentist because, you know, people often perceive dentists as, you know, a little bit scary. It's not something you're always excited to do. So when you project yourself as more personable through leveraging social media, you put your practice in a much better position to convert more patient inquiries.
So do we have to do TikTok videos? Do we have to do that?
Look, I mean, TikTok's not a bad way of branding yourself. It's quite a new platform. A lot of people are using it. You know, if you're inclined to do a few dances, I'm not saying it's the best thing or the worst thing, but it's better than not doing anything. See what it yields for your practice. I think the most important thing to take away from this is to start. And, you know, try to also be more interesting. You know, like, don't be stock standard. Don't like use boring stock photos. And like, please don't use the photo of the guy where he has one missing eyebrow and like a missing tooth, and you're like, oh, what did you notice first? Oh, he has a missing tooth. Like, literally, I swear, like.
So all of my friends have forwarded that photo to me, like many times.
Yeah, so, like if that's your level of creativity on post, like, you need to reevaluate yourself, and, you know, think of creating better content. You know, it doesn't always have to be that like comedic. You could also just post photos of yourself within your practice?
So I'd noticed that someone said that the sound is a bit poor. Can you guys just give us an indication? Just going to the Q&A. Then I think we can go on. Right, so the next one. The third point that we wanted to talk about after social media is how do we convert the money that we spend on marketing into real money in our pockets. So when we spend money on Google ad campaigns, on social, on building a website, how are we sure that we'll see the money return to us? The only way we can do that is if we measure it. So and if we diversify where we invest. So diversifying, like any other investment, and that's why we're talking about not only the website, not only Google AdWords, not only are we talking about the social, the TikTok, the Instagram, it is a little bit of everything. When we do all of those things well, then we're diversifying where we're investing in social media, and we will inevitably see a better return. But it's important to measure this. If we can't measure it, we don't know if we're spending our money in the right places. If we spend our money on, for instance, Google Ads, and it doesn't work, or something's wrong with the way we are doing it, how are we going to know if this is not working? In our practice, what we did right from the, well, I don't know if we did it right from the start, but we did it pretty early on, is to measure things on a very practical level, but then also to use the Google tools to, let me see. Okay, sorry, I just had to check the sound quickly from Marlies. If we measure things not only from a reception side, but also by looking at the Google tools. So some of the tools that I use in my practice, this is the statistics from 2018. This is when I was still Corné Smith Dentistry. And I did, this is April 2018. We looked at the stats directly from the Google My Business page. So this is what you can get if you just list your business on Google. You get this automatically. I can see how many people found me on Google. I can see how many people asked for directions, how many visited my website, how many called me. I can even see the popular times. I can see when people phoned, how many people phoned. You can, I mean, it's quite natural. We all see these trends in our practices, but it's very nice to have the metrics. Then, how are people finding me? So discovery versus direct. The green thing was people that put in the practice's name and they found us. And then the blue one was when people were searching for instance, dentist in Claremont, and that's how they found us. Other things we can see here is how, what is this? How people are, how many people visited the website, how many request directions, and how many actually called us. The views of our business, and also where people live that were searching for us. So if you look at the purple areas on the map, it's so useful to be able to see where my patients live. If I if I know where to target my marketing just by demographic alone, this really helps a lot. So this is some of the tools that we can use to track our marketing, but we can also use tools that we get from Avali. So when Avali sends me a report, they give me this little breakdown of how our search is working. So to be able to measure if what we're doing is actually working. So here we see organic search versus direct versus social, paid search, referral, and display. All of these things are things that we spoke about tonight. Organic search is obviously when people randomly just find us. And this is pretty awesome, actually. If you think this was in 2018 and 1,600 people found us by just searching for dentist in Cape Town or whatever. And now Khaalid can go and refine whatever we're doing, see if it's working, see if it's not working. You see our social was quite low, and we didn't really work on social in 2018 at all. And if you maybe from your side just want to elaborate a bit on what referral and display is.
So referrals basically, like let's say for argument's sake, you would put out a PR piece on a different website, so perhaps a news publication. Then referral traffic basically implies how many people came to your website from other websites that are also online. So that's a very good gauge and way for you to see that if you, for example, pay a blogger or a blogger does a piece on you and your practice, you are able to see whether that post or that news article actually led to anyone contacting your practice. So that's a really good metric to look at. And then display is basically those adverts that you see on various websites across the internet, those banner adverts. Again, those adverts are more focused on driving brand awareness because you're optimizing for viewability so that people are consistently seeing your practice and your logo. So that metric on driving sessions is not generally a good metric to gauge performance of a display campaign. But again, that is what a display campaign is. It's those ads that you see all over the internet.
And then just further touching on the investment that we make, what do you guys find is kind of just a guideline on how to look at the way we spend our money on marketing? Do you have, if you look at the data from your clients, do you have a percentage that you think is fair for dentists to spend on marketing if they want to get more patients?
Yes, so most practices that we see are in a growth phase of their practices. So they purposely want to gain more patients. They are on average spending 5 to 10% of their monthly revenue on marketing. And it's not to say that you eternally spend the 5 to 10%, because once you have a bit of scale in your practice and your word of mouth is in full swing, then a lot of practices do also taper down to between 3 and 5%. But yeah, I'd say 5 and 10%, and mostly only 10% if you're like a new practice, like a brand new practice that has no patient base. You sort of want to spend 10% of the revenue level that you'd like to attain as quickly as possible. But once you've attained that benchmark revenue level, you can always taper down to a 5% spend. But I think we're quite lucky in South Africa in the sense that because a lot of dental practices are not very good at marketing, you are actually able to get away with spending such a low percentage of your revenues and pretty much double your practice revenue within a 18 to 24 month period. It's very doable. With 5% of your revenues, you can very easily double your practice revenues. And I mean, it's mostly because a lot of dental practices do very inefficient marketing. And if you do proper marketing, yes, definitely double your practice revenues within 18 to 24 months with a 5 to 10% allocation.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that this is a long game. This is definitely not something that you can do for 3 months and then turn it off. I can testify of how I built my practice as a scratch start. So I started my practice in an area where we have a lot of dentists. I mean, it's probably one of the most saturated areas in Cape Town. And I started the practice from scratch. So I did not have any new patients, and I had quite a lot of debt. So I had to actually make money, and I had to find a way to get patients into my practice. And it was very fortunate that it was just the right time for me, where the amount of money that I had to spend was really not a lot to grow exponentially in those first 3 years, where a lot of small businesses and a lot of dentists find it very hard to grow. And I mean, it was tough, but it could have been so much worse if I didn't do any marketing. So I used several channels. I was on What Clinic, and I did everything. And I met you probably already 2 years into that. And just from growing in this marketing journey and forming relationship with people, having constant conversations about this. It's not that, you can't just do something and expect this miracle after a couple of months. It's a real commitment, and it's a lot of time and effort sometimes, and sometimes it's not even very enjoyable to do all of this marketing stuff. But it's something that is such a pivotal part of the business that we can't ignore it, especially not if you're in a metropolitan area like Cape Town or Joburg. So it works, but it takes time. Let me just get to the last slides. I want to end off by just showing you guys this beautiful photo. This is where we were in Pringle Bay this weekend. And I'm showing you this because I was reminded of the wave of marketing in South Africa at the moment. So here you can see the ocean's really, really quiet and still. And it doesn't look scary at all. And it's so beautiful. The sunset looks amazing. And that's kind of like the slow rise that we have at the moment in South Africa. And if you guys take the opportunity now, you still have time. If we look at our colleagues in countries like the UK, in America, in Australia even, the competition is getting so tough in digital marketing. And it takes so much money to get you to the same level as where people are that have time on their sides. It's essential to start earlier. It's one of those, I can't remember exactly the saying, but it's like, when is the best time to plant a tree? It's yesterday, the second best time is today. So start your marketing journey. Even if you just start your own social profiles. If you work for someone, if you're a dentist that works for someone and you don't have budget and you can't have a web, start building on your own personal brand. You have the power to do that. No one can prevent you from doing that. Start showcasing what you do, what you're passionate about, and start telling your story. Find the things that you like doing. What are you famous for? How do you make your patients feel? What are your hands good with? What are the clinical skills that you have that you can offer? And then connect to those patients. Because very soon, you might be riding this wave of marketing, which is probably already here, but it's still a freaking amazing wave that we can ride. It might kind of crash and you might fail. And I have definitely made some mistakes, but it's about also talking to our community, learning from each other. And even if your friend doesn't fail and he has this amazing ride and you crash, that is also okay, because we all will get there if we just start now. Ride the wave. The wave of marketing, digital marketing in South Africa has been here for a while. Don't miss out, because it is really worth it. I thank you guys for your attention. Thank you so much to SAAAD, to Marlies, to everyone for hosting us. It was so nice just to have a chat with a friend tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to just end off with some info from your side, Khaalid, and then we're going to go over to questions and answers.
Yeah, so it's been pretty great. In terms of like what Avli does, so we obviously do a lot of dental marketing for a lot of dental professionals, and just as part of SAAAD, we are giving away 50% discount to the first 10 additional signups that email saada@avli.co.za. So that is only valid for the first 10 people that inquire, and that is also only valid for the next 7 days. So in terms of pricing and costing, which is a question that we get asked quite often, around what would this cost us? It really depends on the area that you're in and the type of dental professional that you are. So if you are a dental professional that's sort of just starting out and you're not necessarily in a high competition or not necessarily metropolitan area, you can usually start out with something basic that costs from 4,000 Rand. If you are a dental professional that offers higher value treatments, so maybe you are doing a little bit of cosmetic work, some crowns, bridges, and you want to attract those types of patients, then you are usually able to start with a budget of about 8,000 Rand. And if you are a specialist type practice, so maybe you're doing orthodontics, perio, or prosto work, then it's recommended that you start with a budget of about 15,000 Rand a month if you are wanting to attract those types of higher value cases. But yeah, the discount is only for the first 10 people, the 50% off. So yeah, if you're interested, we'd love to work with you. And yeah, I think let's answer some questions.
Well, it seems like it was when you don't have questions, it's either really bad or really good. Some of you might be enjoying your dinner now. I still appreciate your attention. If you don't have any other questions for us, I'm just going through what I can see. I'm reading here. I've been running a very successful community-based professional dental practice for years. This I have done without and despite Google and social media. That's very good. However, do have a website. I'm fully occupied from opening to closing time every day. All my spare time I spend with family, friends, learning new aspects of dentistry. I'm going about my professional and personal life in a no. Well, if this person thinks that we're judging you because you're not doing marketing, that's definitely not the case. We obviously sit in different positions. So if you don't need any new patients and what you're doing is already working, then that is amazing. Unfortunately, in big cities like Cape Town and Johannesburg, that is not the case. We do not have people just knocking on our doors just because we're good dentists. We have extremely high competition levels here, and digital marketing is just the way it goes. So I'm glad if you have a practice that works. I'm glad if you have a practice that's successful, and I wish you all the best. And it's even better if you don't have to spend a cent on marketing. Well done for doing that. If there are any other questions or comments, positive or negative, you guys are welcome to share. Don't be too harsh now, though. But then I am going to end the webinar. Thanks, Khaalid. It was nice to have our chat. Marlies, we're ready for you guys if you want to end off with your video.
So I was worried that, am I going to see any patients? Who's going to want to come and see me?
We started off in this little spot where there was nothing. It wasn't a dentistry office before. We didn't have a lot of money, and we didn't understand, what we wanted to do in the first place. We just wanted to do dentistry.
We have met multiple milestones and goals through our association with Avali.
You need somebody that understands your brand. And I was very fortunate to have started my journey and my relationship with Avali.
The reason I decided to go to Avali because I wanted to increase my patient base and to also increase the practice revenue.
Avali essentially provided the compass for our practice and put us on a path of success that we are realizing at present.
So I was worried that, am I going to see any patients? Who's going to want to come and see me?
We started off in this little spot where there was nothing. It wasn't a dentistry office before. We didn't have a lot of money, and we didn't understand, what we wanted to do in the first place. We just wanted to do dentistry.
We have met multiple milestones and goals through our association with Avali.
You need somebody that understands your brand. And I was very fortunate to have started my journey and my relationship with Avali.
The reason I decided to go to Avali because I wanted to increase my patient base and to also increase the practice revenue.
Avali essentially provided the compass for our practice and put us on a path of success that we are realizing at present.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will end the session now. Good night.